Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Savage, an Ash Park novel, book number 10, by Meghan O'Flynn, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. The cobblestones in the alleyway were sharp as tacks beneath the soles of her boots. Not that Regina Jackson was particularly bothered by that little bit of discomfort. Everything hurt lately, her eyes aching from the moment she awoke. Her bones felt sore, like they were straining to burst from their tendon prison, but were just too damn exhausted to follow through. That was how Petrovsky felt every damn day, if you believed his belly aching, but she didn't have time to feel bad. She'd spent yesterday trying to get her son set up with a new caregiver. He'd headbutted the last one. She loved him with all her heart and soul, but people didn't like to talk about the hardship that went along with special needs. The pain, the abject terror of what might happen when you were gone. And in her line of work, that possibility was always a little closer than she liked. A breeze hissed up the alley, bringing with it the subtle tang of rot, sweet and bitter, the fragrance like grass clippings and cut tulips tossed into a pile of long stagnant water. It was possible that was exactly what the stink was. She couldn't see much past the enormous set of dumpsters that blocked half the alley, and the bricks on either side of the crumbling cobblestone walkway seemed to be grappling with the clouds. But though she couldn't see the police cars, she knew they were there. Red and blue lights flashed maniacally against the dumpsters, the reflection turning the metal sides into pulsing strobes. No grass on the breeze now. Just the stench of decaying flowers, like someone had dumped perfume into a sewer. She sidestepped a particularly large puddle of black water, the top shiny, reds and blues dancing on the top like fireworks on a dark lake. She was still squinting at it when her feet splashed into another puddle, sending a spray of gray water over the tops of her boots and the cuffs of her navy suit pants. Just great. She stomped a little extra hard past the strobing dumpsters. Click thunk squish. The far end of the alley came into focus first. A line of cruisers and crime tape and barrel-chested officers just itching to get the first glance at whatever mess waited for her on the other side of the trash bins. She paused. A car? The little green Fusion sat tucked behind the dumpsters, unassuming like a wart on a toad. A bumper sticker that said, "Life is better with a beard," adorned the back window, a sign Petrovsky would surely take to mean whatever hipster lay inside had deserved to die slowly. But it didn't look as if this was the case. The victim lay prone beside the back door on a piece of thick plastic sheeting, his shirt soaked in ruby, his blue eyes wide to the clouds. Bloody hands grasped at nothing, crimson nails facing upward as if prepared to accept some offering that would never be enough to repair the gash that bisected his throat. His neck had been slashed open like a gaping secondary smile. Beneath the neat lines of his close-cropped facial hair, both the carotid and the jugular appeared to have been severed. Even the pale tube of his esophageal tissue was slashed. The hair along his jaw was stained with gore. It wouldn't have taken long to bleed out from a wound like that. Unconsciousness would have claimed him within a minute, probably much less. Efficiency was the name of this killer's game. She sidestepped the body and peered through the open back door into the car's interior. A fast food bag on the floorboards, a few slips that looked like receipts, but no blood. She drew back and frowned at the body. At the plastic sheeting beneath the man were wide swaths of red, marred neoplaque material. Smears, but nothing that resembled spray. She scanned the walls of the brick, the dumpster, the cobblestones, but she saw no signs of struggle, no splatters of red. The victim hadn't been killed here. Premeditated, probably. A bloody mess. Absolutely. But Decanter had sounded strange on the phone, too tense for this to be a standard homicide. What was she missing? Thanks for coming. She looked over. Decanter was approaching from behind the crime tape at the far end of the alley, breaking from the pack of uniforms for the 20 feet of vacant cobbles between them. No one with him to jostle the cup of coffee he held in one hand, no one to knock the manila folder he carried in the other. But that was strange too, wasn't it? Why weren't there techs here scrambling for evidence? Maybe he'd been waiting for her? It was always good to get a peek at the scene before the techs started picking things up. Helped you get into the mind of the suspect. She stepped around the body and met Decanter by the car's front bumper. He passed her the coffee cup. "For your trouble." His voice was tight, lower than usual, as if apologizing for giving her coffee. She nodded her thanks. "Is Petrovsky on his way?" Decanter sniffed, his eyes easing to the brick wall off to their right before coming to rest on her face. "I didn't call him." No wonder he sounded strange. Was he trying to keep Petrovsky from getting in on this case? Did he know how far her partner had fallen? It wasn't exactly a secret. Sure, Petrovsky never smelled of liquor, and he still showed up and did his job. Some might argue more professionally when he had whiskey running through his veins. He even wore suit jackets these days. But it was in his eyes. And the way he talked. You had to know him well, but the signs were there. If she saw him drinking, she could justify getting him fired, could rationalize taking him away from her son. Petrovsky was the only person Lance had never been violent with. Her son had punched her more times than she could count. But he'd never so much as raised a voice to Petrovsky. She sipped at the coffee, trying to refocus. Decanter's gaze was tight, hard, his eyes deep pools of onyx that suddenly resembled the muddy water she'd walked through to get here. Unlike her, unlike Shannon, unlike the girls next door to Petrovsky, sweet girls he'd adopted and put up, who seemed to look at him like a father, it appeared Decanter was done with Petrovsky's bullshit. Maybe he'd already gone to the chief. Her phone buzzed, and she dropped her eyes to the screen. Her partner. Speak of the devil. Maybe he already knew. Maybe the chief had already talked to him, but she wanted to know for certain before she called him back. "So, does Petrovsky know you're boxing him out, or what?" "I just wanted to make sure there was something to tell before we brought him in," Decanter said too slowly. And it wasn't just his eyes or his voice. His face was drawn, his dark skin shiny with sweat. His lips, usually so easy to smile even when greeting her at a crime scene, remained downturned, anxious. There was more on his mind than not wanting to upset Petrovsky, more than thinking her partner was unstable. She frowned. "What the hell's going on, Decanter?" He was no longer looking at her. His gaze dragged along the brick wall, then the car, and stopped on the body. The silence stretched. "You know the serial I've been working on?" Yeah, she did. Her boyfriend, well, ex-boyfriend now, had been considering doing a book on him. Everyone loved a good serial killer story, he'd said, but she thought it was exploitive. That it encouraged more bad guys to go out and act in the hopes that the media would write about them too. Fame was as good a motivator as any. "Didn't he go underground? It's been a year since he killed anyone, right?" Decanter nodded. Yeah. She waited. So what was new? What was the problem all of a sudden? Why was she here? He had Sloane, his own partner. He didn't need her. He sighed and shook his head. "I just can't believe no one saw it before." "For fuck's sake, spit it out, Decanter!" She sounded like Petrovsky. The old man was rubbing off on her. Voices floated over them, the murmuring of the Flatfoots bound the crime tape, or maybe the texts were finally here. Decanter extended the manila folder, his eyes grave. "I'll let you take a look. Call it a case consultation." She leaned closer, narrowing her eyes at the tag. The name. The world around her froze, her lungs useless and icy in her chest. Oh, fuck. Her phone buzzed again. The world around her started spinning once more, and she snatched the cell from her pocket. "You're too late, Decanter. I've got my own case." Was her voice shaking? His eyes widened. The file still held aloft like a little boy with a flower for an indifferent girl. But nothing. You call me when you have something concrete." No way she was playing messenger on this one. No way in hell.